Welcome to episode 10 of this 2023-24 season, and nobody can accuse this season of being boring for QPR fans. As usual, we'll quickly review the games that we've had since our last podcast, and then we'll go on to predict a few more, but spend most of our time hopefully discussing topics that I feel need discussing. And to assist me with all of that, I've got George, who's been on once before and yet was happy to come back on. A very warm welcome, George.
Thanks, Brian, for having me on once again. Pleasure to come on as always. Love it.
Well, we love having you. Okay, let's go straight into our quick review of the last four league matches. And for those who can't remember them, here they are. Blackburn against QPR. That was on Saturday, the 3rd of February, and we won that one 1-2. QPR Norwich, we drew that 2-2. And then Stoke against QPR. Sadly, we lost that 1-0. And then we had the Bristol game on Saturday, which was a 1-0 away win. So quite good. That translates into 7 points out of a possible 12. It doesn't move us out of our league position of 22nd, sadly, but it does give us 32 points. So, George, can I ask you for a quick summary of the R's fortune in these four games?
Yeah, well, so I thought it was so refreshing to see the new signings actually come on and make an impact. Like Hodge for that goal looked so composed, but it weren't just that. Hayden, when he came on the pitch, although we did concede later on in that game, it just kind of felt more composed than it would be, because you look at the bench in previous matches before the window and you'd be like, who could come on? But then you looked in that game and you thought, oh, maybe he can come on and make a difference. So that was really good to see. And then Norwich at home, once again, players made a difference, but it seemed to be the normal QPR, we can't defend set pieces. It was that first corner that we conceded was unbelievable. How three of them have let it roll across them, and then Kenny McLean just to score like that. It's poor. But another positive to take from that game, Frey scoring. It's always good to have a striker get off the mark immediately, I believe. And I like it when a striker, his celebration, he's almost like, yeah, I scored and what? It weren't a shot to him. So that's good to see. Stoke away, I went to that one as well. We just never got going, I don't think. It was a lackluster performance. And once again, poor set piece defending. Like the ball's come in, the man's managed to get a free header initially. Everyone's just watched their number 6 go around the back post.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it, and it just showed little creativity. But one thing I will say is, who knows what would have happened if we didn't concede a goal right on half time. I'd say it's the worst time to ever concede a goal. It's just, it completely changes your coach's half time talk, doesn't it? So. Who knows what would have happened, because obviously away at Bristol yesterday, I love waking up to a win, obviously. I thought it was the complete opposite to Stoke. We got the goal just before half-time, and I thought, all right, going into half-time 0-0, it's been a good away performance. We haven't really had too many chances against us, but Chair scoring, great assist from Anderson again, cool and composed as you like, and for me, man of the match was Chris Willock. I thought that he looked really good on the pitch. Like, he had his sharpness back, in my opinion, anyway. And it was good to see Anderson, Willock, and Chair combine a couple of times. So, really positive away performance, I think, Brian.
Well, that's good. I must say, given our dire track record at Blackburn, I was really delighted to get that win. And for it to involve all three of the new arrivals at that time was even better. And the draw against Norwich seemed to me, seemed like a fair result, to be quite honest. But the defeat at Stoke, that was so QPR-ish. It really was. I felt Parle, Chair, Clark Salter and Cannon all looked a bit jaded. Yeah, I mean, the Championship is unrelenting in its demand upon a player's continued fitness. Plus, of course, there's the added weight of us being in the relegation zone. Who knows what that does to their minds. So maybe that does explain their less than energetic performances. But, a week in politics is a long time, they say, but crikey, a week in Championship football is incredible as well. Finally, we had the Bristol City game where neither side was impressive, but rather a case of QPR was the least bad, I think. The possession was better than before, and there were good crosses and shots in the box, but it was all rather tame. Still, a win is a win. We
Yeah,
may
no,
not find
definitely.
out of the relegation zone yet, but Millwall are within touching distance. Hello,
Mm.
darkness, my old friend. So let's move on to making predictions for the next 4 fixtures, if we may, George. First one coming up is QPR against Rotherham. Are you going to that one?
Yeah, I will be at that one, and it's one of them where you could say, "Oh God, it's an easy game." They would say for QPR, we're going to lose it, but I think we're going to win. I think that we'll win it by 2 or 3, and it'll be quite comfortable in the end.
That's what I'd like to hear. Yeah, I'm going to this one as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
Mm.
Leicester against QPR on Saturday, the 2nd of March. That's an away one. League leaders.
Mm, it's a real tough one, isn't it? Once again, you could say typical QPR will get the points against the bigger sides. But I think if you can get that win against Rotherham, it's just a free hit, in my opinion. So I would love to say we're going to win, but I just can't see anything other than a loss, sadly.
You've got to go with your head on this, you know.
Yeah.
Right, so that brings us around to the Baggies on the 6th of March. So it's a midweek game at home. What do you reckon?
Yeah, midweek, Wednesday night on Sky. I can't see nothing other than a 0-0, personally. So I'm going for a 0-0 draw in that one.
That's interesting. Okay, we haven't had many of those. Uh,
No.
right, so the last one, QPR against Middlesbrough on Saturday, the 9th of March. Middlesbrough are not doing too bad, are they?
No, they're not doing too bad, but I believe that our home form, although it weren't too great at the start of the season, it will continue to pick up. And I have gone for a win in this one as well. That could be thinking with my heart, but hey ho.
Yeah, I was watching them last night and I changed my mind. Um, 3 of those are home matches, so let's make some noise, all of you, when you go along and give the travelling fans a well-deserved rest because they've been fantastic away from home this season. These are tough games. Rotherham want to survive too, so they'll be fighting. We're going to have to bring out our best performance, but I've still gone like you for a win.
Hmm.
Leicester is probably a case of hoping for a draw but expecting to lose. That leaves the Baggies and Borough. Both clubs are above us. And they like playing out from the back. Um, these should be far closer games than Leicester's, and I'm hoping for a win against the Baggies and a draw against Borough. That's probably my heart speaking there as well. Uh, okay, let's move on to the topics if we may, George.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
all 4 new arrivals have now been here for 4 games. So has that enabled us to get any idea of their abilities and their benefits to the club, George, do you reckon?
Obviously, you can't get a complete overview of their performances because they just haven't played like much football. But I think that from what we've seen, they've looked good. They've certainly looked better than some of the players we were playing at the start of the season. Let's
Yeah.
just say that, like with Gubbins at the back against Watford. Oh God! But no, it certainly looked better than that. Hodges looked energetic. Hayden's looked very composed and almost like this not the same, but Premier League quality with Sam Field, like them two, solid as a rock in my opinion. Frey, I think, although he's only got the 1 goal, his movement has been really good to me. He seemed like his movement's been proper striker like, proper number 9 in my opinion, and his hold-up play's been good as well. And then Anderson probably seen the least of all of them in my opinion. I thought against Bristol, he started off a bit slow, didn't really do much, but then I thought as the game went on, he built into it, and I thought you can see little snippets of his quality there. And I
Yeah.
look back at some of his highlight reels from 1920, 18, 19. People are comparing him to Christian Eriksen. So hopefully we can get that out of him. So fingers crossed. But he's definitely looked good with the 2 assists. So that's my overview of the 4 signings so far.
That's good. Right, that's fine. I'll start up front. I might as well and go backwards.
Mm.
Frey to me doesn't seem yet fully match fit. I think everybody would agree on that. But it's difficult really to judge how effective he's going to be as comparing him to Dykes or Armstrong or even Seb Poulter for that matter. Um, but his positioning and anticipation as you were saying, suggests that he's going to get goals, I think.
Mm,
Um, Anderson, again, also not totally match fit, it seems. But we can only hope that he does get there quickly because he really does look good on the ball.
mm,
Hodge is the ideal false number 10 for me. He's coming in from deep in the box and equally good at covering attackers. Absolutely what we want at the moment.
no,
And
I agree.
lastly, Hayden is for me the best addition of all. He shores up that
Completely.
defensive midfield. He heads well, he passes well, and he can move forward freely with the ball. It's exactly what we want. I mean, I can't think of the last time we've actually gone out in the January shopping window and done so well.
Mm.
Good deals, I think.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree. I think Hayden has been our best of the lot, as you said. I think that he just seems to love a tackle, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think it's really, really refreshing to see. And as I said earlier on, he seems to have that Premier League quality.
Mm.
Maybe the fact that he hasn't played so many games will catch up on him eventually. But I think on the pit, he has been our best player, I think. And man of the match performance against Norwich, in my opinion.
Mm.
And yeah, and very much great. 90% pass accuracy, if I want to get a stat in. And I think off the pitch as well, you saw in the post-match interview after Stoke, he actually looked hurt by the loss. And he's like he's showing some determination. It is
Yeah, he
really good
did.
to
He
see
did. Yeah.
because I think QPR fans, they don't ask for much out of their players. They just ask for them to really try hard and put like work for the badge. And obviously we want to see good football as well as that. But as long as players are trying and putting their best effort in, that's all we can really ask for, isn't it?
Yeah, and you mentioned about QPR fans wanting to see good football. Yesterday, some of that passing, interpassing,
Oh,
and triangles,
Barcelona.
it was.
Barcelona.
I
Yeah.
was getting so scared at how good they were getting.
Mm.
So given that, I mean, how important is it that we didn't lose Ilias Chair in the transfer window?
Yeah, it was always good. I think I never thought that Chell was going to go in January. I thought if he did go, it'd have to be for a 5, 6 million bid. But obviously, we saw, I don't know how true it is, a Turkish club came in for him after the window closed. But it almost seems like, and it's just a cliche, when Chair plays well, we play well, in my opinion. I think he's our creative spark to the team. One thing I will say is that maybe he can be implemented as Anderson gains more fitness. I love to see Chair back in the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
I think sometimes putting him out wide almost forces him to just cut in and shoot all the time, which people call him a one-trick pony for. I think if you can put him in that middle, he can then link up with Willock, link up with Anderson, and he can just have free roam. Because I think when when Cher and Willock were playing at their best, it was when they just have free roam of the pitch. So I think Chair in the middle would be good, but obviously he's got 9 goals and assists this year. Our top goal scorer, even though that is only 4 goals, so that don't really tell much. But I genuinely think he's thriving under Marty more than he did with Ainsworth when the ball would just go over his head, sadly. But it is really good to see him still at the club, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the position he's taken up now is exactly the same as it was under Ainsworth, but he's getting a lot more out of it.
Mm,
You're absolutely right, and he should be further in. I mean, I see him as like an inside right, inside left, with
mm,
him and Willock interchanging. I'm quite intrigued because I actually felt that Willock played better yesterday, but he wasn't effective, and yet you think
mm.
he was, which is interesting. For me, I felt he hadn't taken on enough players, and he hadn't made good passes. So that's
Mm,
why I
no,
said that.
no, I get where you're coming from. I think compared to the Willock we've seen recently, I think it was refreshing that he actually, it's just in some points, the ball just seems to be glued to his foot. Like, I don't know, he can just interchange between the play, and I think it is good to see. And I think he's showing some desire now. And people were saying that, oh, he never cared, he never cared.
I think
I saw him after the game yesterday, giving all the fist pumps and everything, loving it. And that is really refreshing to see, isn't it? And yeah, I think as it goes on, I think he will get goals. And I'm not saying that the old Willock will come back because I think what's it called, that period of Chris Willock, I don't think that'll ever come back personally. But as long as he's showing some creativity and goal chances, you can't really ask much more from an attacker, can you? So
And I think you're referring to when he was really at his best. I think it's the injury, that serious injury he had, that
mm,
seems to have changed him.
yeah,
Uh,
it's such a mental thing with Willock, isn't it?
mm.
I think that when people come at him saying, "Oh, he's awful" and all this, more words than awful, but I think
No, he's
that
not.
no, he isn't. No, he really isn't, and he went through a really hard period of time where I think Ainsworth didn't rate him at all. People were saying about how we could have treated Ainsworth wrong, but I don't really.
No.
I don't really know. I think everyone knows who listened to me before my opinions on our Ainsworth period, so I won't go into that. But I think
Uh,
Willett recently has been good.
I think that's going to be a podcast for next season or at the end of this season because it's
Yeah,
probably still a bit raw. Uh,
yeah, definitely.
let's move on to our second topic. We've got 11 players that are due to have their contracts expire at the end of this season, meaning that they're going to depart on a free transfer unless we re-sign them. So, shall we go through these players one at a time, perhaps, and offer our thoughts on who should be keeping, who we should be letting go?
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
in fact, let's do it with three options, shall we? Who would be okay to keep, who we will try very hard to keep, and those that we will be okay about them leaving. So let's start off with the first one on there on the list, Sam Field, who's made over 100 appearances for the R's and has made his move permanent in the summer of 21. So he's been here 3 years nearly.
Mm. I think I think you got to work hard to keep him, in my opinion. You saw last year he was our best player throughout
Yes.
a period of poor performances. He constantly put in a 7, 8 out of 10, and he just when he came off the pitch, the gap in the midfield would be massive. So I
Yeah.
think he has to be one that we really fight hard to keep.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, until Hayden came along, it was just Sam Field really in that
Mm,
position, filling a massive hole. Yeah, you could see the difference he made when he came on at Bristol. I still rate him highly. Definitely one to
no,
retain.
completely agree. Completely
Right,
agree.
let's move on. Jimmy Dunn, 26 years old, still life in the old CB yet. Despite making over 100 appearances for Loftus Road, he could still depart for free this summer. There is
Mm.
a 1 year extension the club could trigger. Should they do it?
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't trigger that 1 year extension to be on a really short period. He really impressed me yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, me.
A right back role. He didn't exactly like tear up anything, but he was assured, I think, in my opinion, and he looked like he's played there his whole life. So I think it was good, and I think although his style may not exactly suit Marty's of playing out from the back, we all saw that at Millwall way, him and Kakai down that right. But I'd think if you can keep him, he'd be a good bench option, and obviously shown that it can be a versatile fullback maybe as well. So
Yeah, I think if you look at the CVs that we've got, you've got Cook, Clark Salter, Fox, Kakai, and Dunn. And Dunn did play well at Bristol. There's no getting away from it.
mm,
I feel his future uh, largely depends on whether Kakai goes or not, to be quite honest.
yeah,
If they keep Kakai because maybe he's cheaper, I don't know if he is. Then maybe you would say, okay, we'll let you go. But otherwise, yeah, I agree with you. I think playing right back, it's pretty impressive.
mm.
Right, Chris Willock in 2021-22, he achieved 18 goals. But since his long-term injury, as I mentioned before, he hasn't regained that same level. So what do you reckon, George?
I wouldn't completely blow our wage budget to keep him, in my opinion. I think that this is all a conversation that will become null and void because I think he'll go anyway. I think he wants a fresh challenge. But
Yeah,
I
I think so.
think if he wants to stay, then of course, like, okay, we'll keep him. I'd rather him than some of the bench options we've had.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
I can't argue with that. For me, Willock and Chair both work better playing off the wing, as we've discussed before. And Chair has adapted to that wing role better than Willock. That's the truth, I think.
Mm.
Um, he doesn't take on enough defenders for me, and he certainly doesn't defend properly. Whereas Chair seems to have clicked on that, and he does know what he has to do, and he does come and deliver. It may be time to go, especially if we make some money. But I really will be sorry to see him go. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I agree. It'll be sad to see him go, obviously, because at that period of time he looked the best player in the division, didn't he? We all loved him, and it's just I think the injury just got the better of him in the end. And as I said earlier on, I don't agree with people saying that he don't care.
no,
I
he
think he
cares.
does. I think he does care, and it's just I think he wants a fresh challenge. So of course I'd like to keep him, but we're not gonna go out of our way to beg him to stay when his head could already be turned.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough. I mean, you look at Andre Dozzell; he seems to be doing better away from us than here. We'll
Yeah.
see. Okay, well, that brings us on to Sinclair Armstrong, the big burly Irishman. He was offered a contract back in October, and he hasn't signed. So, what do you
Mm.
reckon?
I think we got to work hard to keep him, Brian. In my opinion, his raw and talent is unbelievable. I've never seen a striker so quick. In my obviously his finishing needs some work, but I think he will end up staying. I saw in his agent's Instagram story the other day that like just them two sat around a table, maybe hinting at something, but who knows? I think he will stay in the end, and I think it'll be really good to see him stay because he's a 20-year-old, and we've put all our pressure on him at points this season, and he isn't completely lived up to the hype, but he just needs to work on that finishing, doesn't he? Like you saw against Watford, was it? He missed a
Yes.
couple of chances at home where he really should have put away. But if he can keep learning the trade of being a striker, then I think we've got someone really special at the club.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's good that you've heard that the agent has got finally managed to purchase a table for the negotiations because I really want that to happen. I
Mm,
got the distinct impression they were playing hardball. Um, I mean, I do worry because I feel he may well be snapped up with an offer from somebody else with offering him a higher wage.
mm,
Um, but I do want the club to keep improving him. I think that he's done well here. He's done particularly well under Marty. You can see the difference in him in the last few months. It has definitely changed for him. So that
completely
corner's been
agree.
turned. Maybe he will, as you say, start to finish off those goals.
Fingers crossed, eh? Fingers crossed.
Okay, well, that brings us on to Osman Kakai, the Academy graduate and Sierra Leone international, who's due to depart on free transfer again at the end of the season. What do you reckon?
I don't think we should keep him, in my opinion. I think that you just mentioned the point of him being an academy graduate. He's probably our best example of academy graduate in the last few
He
years,
is.
which really isn't good to see, is it? But I think although at points he's looked all right in a championship side, I just don't think he's championship level. And I think Marty's seen that now, and I think he'll just go at the end of the season. And he's had a good spell at the club, but I just never thought he's had the quality to step up and become a consistent championship right back.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I mean, in my notes, I sort of put down that he can cope at the lower championship level, and then I wrote just
Yeah,
because that about
literally.
sums it up. If we do survive, I do feel that we'd be looking elsewhere for a faster and more deadly right back who's
Yeah,
comfortable on the ball.
no, definitely.
If not, then I think League One, yeah, he wouldn't be a bad asset.
No,
I think
definitely
that about
not.
sums it up. Right, well, that brings us round to Elijah Dixon Bonner. Um, since joining as a free agent in October 22, he's proven his worth in midfield, I feel, and
Mm.
is a rarely, sadly, a regular starter under Cifuentes. What do you reckon?
I think we should keep him, in my opinion. I think, although at points he's looked slightly overrun, but that could just be because he hasn't got any championship experience. I say that, but in points he has looked really good, calm on the ball, good passing range and everything. So I think I think you'd be stupid not to keep him. Bear in mind he's still reasonably young. He could learn, and I think you have to keep him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I rate him. I really do.
Mm,
And I think with the arrival of Anderson, Hodge, and Hayden, he probably has moved down the pecking order. But I would still keep him because I still
mm.
feel that there is great potential there. Uh, Good. Well, we're doing very well. I think we agree on all of these so far. Um, which brings us round to we've got a very strange situation here. We've actually got three goalkeepers all coming to the end of their contracts at the same time. First one, Asmir Begovic. Probably what he decides will determine the others what happens, I guess.
Mm.
So, do you think another year for him?
I personally, I think he's done okay. I think he's done all right this year. So I don't, I don't think he'll sign him for another year. One thing I would be open to though is him coming back as some sort of coach or something, because he obviously has his own business at the moment, goalkeeper coaching. So who knows? He could be in it for the long haul with that. Because I remember when he came into the club, he said, "Oh, I'm at this club for the long term." I could just be reading into too much stuff, but I think he could be a potential coach option going forward. But I think long term, Marty's style, he's done all right on the ball, but I think Marty would prefer a young goalkeeper who's used to playing with his feet. So I think Begovic done well this season, especially where we are in the league. He's one of the better keepers in that relegation battle. So I just don't think he'll sign him for another year personally.
It's a tricky one. I mean, from the club's
Mm,
perspective, as you say, he hasn't done badly, and there definitely is another year in him.
mm.
So it's really a question, I think, as you say, whether he wants to carry on or not. I think the club would probably say, yeah, another season. I'm sure they
Yeah,
would.
maybe.
Um, right, which brings us round to Jordan Archer. He's only managed 45 minutes, I believe, in the championship since Begovic has arrived. Um, and he may well feel that his future lies elsewhere because, like any other player, he wants to play.
No, you're right.
What do you reckon?
I think that he's been a good bench keeper in my opinion. Like you look at these other teams and they have some 18, 19 year old who you've never heard of on the bench. But I think he will go. And I think as a goalkeeper, it's not nice to be sat on the bench for 2, 3 years, isn't it? So I think he'll go to a League One, League Two side and it'll be a good option for them. So I think although his time at the club, best memory's probably been that FA Cup
FA
goal
Cup.
penalty shootout, that one where he dislocated his shoulder. I think, yeah, I think he'll go in the end personally.
Yeah, I feel you're going to be right. But I guess if Begovic does go or does decide not to carry on, maybe they'll just say to Jordan Archer, right, you're number one.
Mm.
We'll see. It is very interesting to see in the championship, though, the quality of some of the goalkeepers. Some of the saves
Oh
being
yeah.
made are phenomenal. They really are.
Mm.
I might also say some of the goalies in the bottom of the Premiership. You think to yourself, my God, why have they got him there? But well, anyway,
Yeah,
um,
literally.
so there are possibilities. Right, it brings us round to Albert Adoma. Unks is not just a player. He loves this club as a fan, and he's also a QPR bondholder.
Mm.
However, his age probably means that his squad days at QPR are coming to an end. But I suspect he may now get another opportunity into coaching at the club, which is similar to what you were
Mm.
saying with Asmir.
Yeah. I love Albert as a guy. I've met him on numerous occasions. I've actually played a game of Panna against him. One may I just say. But no, I really like Albert as a guy, and you can tell he loves the club. It's just so sad to see. His legs have just gone, haven't they? Like
Yeah,
I personally don't think he'll sign him for another year. And you could be right with a coaching avenue for him. I just think he'll retire at the end of the season. I just think he's had a really good run in Championship football. And I just no, I don't think he'll sign him for another year, in my opinion.
yeah. When I was down at the training ground well, 2, 3 weeks ago, he spent a lot of time on the touchline, and he was coaching
Mm,
effectively the squad. It was quite interesting to see him shouting at them. But yeah, who knows? I just don't know on that one. But I agree with you. I think his days in the squad are gone, I think now.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
what a fantastic. I wish we'd had him earlier. Okay. Aaron Drew. Aaron's another one who's failed to start most championship games, and looks to be released, I feel.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
don't. Yeah, I don't see him staying personally. Like people said against oh, what game was it? Norwich he came on for most of the game.
He could have done, yeah, I think he did, and
I think it was Norwich, and I listened to
he
other
did better.
podcasts. Yeah, and I listened to other podcasts, and they said, yeah, it was good. He didn't get absolutely torn apart. Like if that's our standard for him, I'm sorry, I just don't think he's good enough for the championship. He seems like a nice guy, but yeah, I think he'll end up getting released.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, that leaves us with our last person, which is also the last of the three goalies, George Walsh. George has been out on loan at Accrington Stanley, but the our third goalie is also out of contract. Whether he tries to renegotiate his contract, um, I guess it depends upon what happens with Asmir and Jordan again. When you're that low
Mm.
down, you start looking up all the time, wondering what's going to happen. But from the club's perspective, what worries me is that this is really rather short-sighted. We've got three goalies coming to the end of their contract at the same time. It's not something I would want.
No, no, definitely not. But I think that well, she's definitely a good prospect for the future, in my opinion. And I've seen some reaction from
Mm,
Accrington Stanley fans when he went out on loan for a couple of months there, and he said he did really well. And
yeah,
I think once again he's still young. He was highly rated at his previous club before he came to us. I remember seeing the signing. They were like, "Oh, you got a really good one there." And obviously, young goalkeeper, you could say the stereotype, oh, they're going to be good with their feet, but Marty could like someone like that. And I'm not saying that he's going to be thrown right in the deep end and start, but I think certainly could be our bench keeper next year.
yeah, I feel like you on that. That's exactly how I think anyway. Uh, I mean, I know in the past I've criticised the club for having no real depth of quality in the squad. Um, if so many of those players do leave in the summer, we're going to go from the situation where we've finally sorted out the quality with those four new arrivals back to being struggling again with substitutes.
Mm.
I do wonder if the club and its players are holding off on a new contracts because their future is all uncertain, whether it's going to be Championship or League One next season. I don't really know. But I really would like the new CEO to step in and get this sorted out as soon as possible.
No,
Let's
I completely.
keep the ones that we really, really need, George.
No, I completely agree. And the new CEO, he seemed to do well. In my opinion, so far, he's obviously the three scarves at the home game the other day. That's a really nice touch, and I
Yeah.
think that one thing I'd love to ask him is, are you going to be using that your data backgrounds to get the players in? Because obviously we've seen it with the likes of Anderson and Frey, people we've never heard of before. So who knows? I think that. Well, if we're still in the Championship or indeed League One, we'll definitely be in a better position than we were last summer. I know you're saying all the players are going to go, quite a lot of players are going to go, but it could be quite good to have a reset, get Marty to get his players in, and I think we'll definitely be in a good position no matter. Obviously, you want to stay in the Championship and getting relegated will hurt. I'm not one of these people who say going down to League One will benefit us. I really don't think that. I think we'll
No,
be
normally.
stuck. I think we'll be stuck there for a good few years. But I think if we can manage to stay up, we'll be in a good position for next year, in my opinion. We certainly won't be in a relegation bout as this year. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, let's get out of this relegation zone and let's do something decent this year. Like
Mm.
survive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on this. Yeah, and I agree with you about Christian Nuri. I think that if he's going to use analytics to find us players that suit our way of playing, great. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Completely agree.
Don't hang about.
Completely agree.
Great, great day job for him. Okay. That brings us to the end of episode 10. So if I can quickly thank my guest George for his contributions, which was so much appreciated.
Thanks, Brian. Once again, love coming on as always.
Great. Well, no, we love having you. And I also want to thank Editor Dave, as always, for all he does. And all of you for watching. Do click on subscribe if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, and add comments below. Let us know if you agree with George and I about the players to keep or release. I'm Brian Fisher, and this has been a Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. Come on, you R's.
Come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.